So the first thing that's been very clear to us on the Hill is that President Obama is making the American people insane. The dynamic up here is completely crazy. You have all these people who are just hysterical. They're hysterical about stopping the war on Syria. They are hysterical about Obamacare. There's a rally to defund Obamacare. You have an APAC group here, which a bunch of them are probably funded by the Saudis lobbying for strikes on Syria. There's just a general aura of madness and unreality. So we've been reflecting on LaRouche's wisdom and insight and insisting that the policy committee focus on bringing people the idea of the future. What happens when Obama, Secretary of State Kerry, and others are removed, as they must be, given Kerry's proposal that the Saudis, among supposedly other Arab states, fund this invasion? They're making treasonous statements and must be removed, and Glass-Steagall must be reinstated to crush Wall Street. But then what? What gives people stability? What can they count on? What can end this era of insanity? So we have a few reports from meetings this morning.
Yeah, I think it has become very clear that what Mr. LaRouche put on the table in discussion with the policy committee yesterday is going to be our role and our job to shape the incoming presidency, the new presidency, which is going to be brought forth immediately with the fact that President Obama is being made into a lame duck with everything that he's pushing, and that we can see impeachment on the table very soon. And many people are responding to that reality, and as Diane just said, look, we're the only ones going into this meeting with a clear alternative, a clear solution to progress and to the future orientation of what must replace this insane policy, and really getting at the aspect of what has happened since the assassination of President Kennedy, the decline in physical economic output, and the fact that right now what our basement has put forward as a sound strategic scientific policy solution around thermonuclear NWAPA, a fusion economy, starting with that in these meetings as the basis to dealing with this crisis, as the basis to, if you want to address the banking collapse, if you want to address the insanity of this presidency, if you want to address the economic crisis overall, nothing else is going to matter except for what LaRouche and our Policy Institute, LaRouche PAC, is putting out, which is a revival of a real economy based on scientific progress around the nuclear NWAPA. And many people are completely, in the meetings we've had so far, the response is very positive. People are blown away by this. You know, they're getting people coming in, the pink people, the anti-war people, the peace people, so forth, but all they want to do is address the problem, but not actually a solution to dealing with the problem. And the solution is really what Mr. LaRouche laid on the table, that Obama, Kerry, this whole warmongering administration is on the way out, and that we can move forward to the post-Obama recovery plan for the country.
I'm Dave Christie here with Rachel Brown, and we are on Capitol Hill organizing for the new presidency that comes in once Obama goes. Now, what's clear is that there is an amazing amount of response coming from the American population against this war. And on Capitol Hill here is quite a noisy response coming from certain anti-war groups. But what they don't understand is that you cannot just simply stop war. You must secure the peace. And the only way that you can secure the peace is through economic development. And we're at a point now where what the basement research team has done, the LaRouche PAC basement research team has done, is put together that policy. And that policy begins with a thermonuclear fusion driver program. That is the only alternative to thermonuclear warfare. And that begins with a new orientation towards the Pacific Basin, towards bringing the nations of Asia, Russia, China, and India in particular, together with the United States. Now, if we do not destroy the British Empire by bankrupting it with Wall Street, bankrupting it with Glass-Steagall, bankrupting Wall Street and the City of London by taking away the fictitious gambling debts and returning sovereignty to the banking system with Glass-Steagall. If we do not take these guys down, we will always be in a danger of war. Because what the Queen has enunciated repeatedly through her royal consort Prince Philip, through figures like David Attenborough, who has given another blood-curdling demand for population reduction, their agenda is to reduce the world population from 7 billion down to less than 1. They'll do it through war, they'll do it through environmentalism, they'll do it through the bail-in policy that is currently being solidified under the Dodd-Frank Title II bail-in program, that until those guys are destroyed and sovereignty restored, then we will always be in a danger of war. And that can only occur through looking to the future and preparing that future, and that future again begins with a thermonuclear fusion driver program.
Right, the trend lines in population growth and potential population density have collapsed over the recent decades, especially since the lack of imposition of nuclear technology since its discovery. We have seen a loss of the ability to support human life around the planet. So in one sense, as the point has been made by our basement team, the British Empire has succeeded in their efforts at depopulation. And we are absolutely at the edge of that abyss with this potential drive for thermonuclear war in Syria, which can only be removed with the removal of this faction from the presidency, the British faction represented by Obama and John Kerry. So what we have reached is a point of the end of a system, a no-growth system and a no-growth ideology of practicality, which has contaminated the thinking of even the best people in our society. So we have to completely reverse this, and that is what we are doing here on the Hill and around the nation now with the new report, Nuclear NWAPA 21 Gateway to the Fusion Economy, which we're distributing around the Hill today and around the country. So this is the way to the future. We have to enter a new era of progress and grasp onto the spirit of mankind and use our creativity to get out of this crisis.
Hi, this is Mike Steger and Bill Roberts. We just finished a couple of meetings in the Senate from the Appalachian area. And the question of the war threat is still very, very real. And there is not a comprehension of the risks that are at stake. This morning, a resolution was now raised by the war faction, John McCain and others, that will give Obama pre-approval for strikes if Syria does not comply with the new Russian proposal of handing over their chemical weapons. Any approval of authorization of a strike against Syria for this administration brings us closer to the threat of thermonuclear war and human extinction. And that is not what's understood. Both of the offices held their cards close to their chest. One of them advocated very much for diplomacy. The other one was supportive of the new Russian proposal. But the fact stands that neither offices and no one on this Capitol Hill fully understands. They recognize that the war, some of them, that the war should not be fought. But most of them do not comprehend the real risk. No one on this planet has the right for any authorization of actions that could lead us to the brink of human extinction through thermonuclear war. And that has to be made clear. The only alternative to that policy, coming directly from the British monarchy, the royal prerogative, is this policy of nuclear development in the United States, a thermonuclear science driver policy. But we've really got to make this clear. Call into your members of Congress, but make it clear that the risk is that. It is a policy for human extinction coming from the British through Obama. We've got him pinned right now. He's had to go to Congress. Congress will not approve the current resolution. but they are regrouping, and they are continuing to plot to get this war into execution, and it must be stopped in all possible ways. The best way, get Obama's removal and reorient the entire economy.
And that's really the point right now. If you have a war with Syria, the military has said that they can't give assurances of an exit strategy, of what the long-term goals of this are. If we launch missiles and Syria retaliates, what happens then? It could go to war with us and Russia, with the United States and China, NATO coming in. And so if you can't launch war without being able to assure that this wouldn't go to thermonuclear extinction, if the American population is already vastly against this intervention, if the U.S. Congress, if the votes are not there to do this, why would Obama be pressing it? And this gets to the fact that this is being pressed by the Queen of England, by this globalist crowd, and is consistent with the warnings that have been made by Lyndon LaRouche, consistent with the warnings that have been made by President Medvedev years ago, when warning of what the installation of the European missile shield would mean, which is that this will come to thermonuclear war if there is not a resolution to have cooperation to avoid war. And that's the point that has to be grasped now, that the issue is that there shouldn't be a war, that this war is being pressed because of the desperation of the international finance crowd, of the City of London, and of Wall Street. So the discussion has to be shaped and crafted around what the future outlook for humanity has to be, which is mutual development. And there can't be any short-term compromises on the basis of what is being demanded with this resolution. And so that has to be the perspective. The discussion must be war avoidance per se, on the basis of the intention to build out of this imposed crisis, this imposed situation. And that is the only terms of addressing this. So people should need to contact the Congress to defeat this. But the important thing is the long-term strategic objective that would only be accomplished by Glass-Steagall, the defeat of Wall Street and the City of London, and the only terms that are acceptable for nations to be able to build out of this crisis, which is what can come out of the Glass-Steagall reinstatement. So there's a lot more that has to be done to change the subject, but there is opposition to this, and we have to continue to develop that.